Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another Nacho Tuesday. And today I have Ryan Freeman, who's the Global Head of Partnerships over at Deel. And without further ado, we'd love if you can introduce what you do over there and tell us more about Deel.
Sure. Thanks, Andy. Deel is an all-in-one HR platform for global or multinational teams. Our philosophy is that teams should be able to hire and manage the best talent regardless of where they're located in the world. And so with Deel, you can compliantly hire, onboard, pay full-time employees or independent contractors or workers of various types in minutes. We offer everything from global payroll to employer of record services, a global HRIS, mobility services, more recently, equipment management and IT services, and more. And we do this across more than 40,000 customers, all the way from SMBs all the way up to publicly traded businesses, with helping hundreds of thousands of workers get paid from pretty much literally anywhere in the world.
Great. Yeah. Everybody wants to get paid on time, right?
Exactly. Paid on time, paid compliantly in the currency or format of their choice. Super important.
Yeah. So tell us how you got to kind of where you're at in your career. From what I understand, you have kind of a global background yourself.
Yeah. I'm relatively new to the payroll, the HCM and broader HR tech world. But started my career as many do out of business school in management consulting and private equity, originally based here in North America. I'm from Toronto, and then spent some time living in Europe, worked in Amsterdam for a few years before coming back to North America. Spent some time in a really early stage startup, and that was my first exposure to partnerships. Joined with the thesis that an indirect go-to-market model, right through channel partners, would be an easier, more efficient way to scale, given the nature of that business. So built out that go-to-market model and ended up selling that business to Yelp. So moved down to San Francisco, spent a couple of years in corporate development at Yelp before finally coming back home to Toronto when it was time for my wife and I to settle down and start thinking about long-term roots and our family. Spent a few years at DoorDash in their enterprise partnerships group, originally focused in Canada, and then subsequently overseeing that group for all of DoorDash's international business as we expanded particularly rapidly throughout the pandemic, given the needs for on-demand delivery and food delivery. So I was there for about 4 years. Spent a brief amount of time at a electric logistics and fulfillment business called GoBolt before joining Deel at the start of this year, where I lead the global partnerships organization on behalf of the company.
Great. Yeah. So I guess in all of your travels and your global experience working in different countries, I guess what are some takeaways that you saw from the hiring environment?
Oof. I think when I think back to the start of my career, and I'll think my first job in management consulting, which is where I moved to Amsterdam, the challenges around mobility from a mindset perspective of getting management comfortable with the concept of moving someone cross border, cross continent, and then the logistics, the administrative side of making that happen. Even setting up a bank account and figuring out the mobility and integration side of things took months and months and months to sort through. And then when I fast forward to today and how much better lubricated those processes are, thanks to organizations like Deel and frankly many others that have taken AI and applied them to solve some of these historically intractable seeming problem, has been super interesting. And I think when you sort of zoom out and look at the business trends or the trends across the environment, I mean, companies want to and frankly need to go global, both for the sake of their own go-to-market, cracking new markets from a growth perspective, but also and honestly probably even more importantly from a talent from a talent perspective, regardless of your focus area from a go-to-market perspective. Being able to access a multinational or ideally a global talent pool gives you access to the right skills in the right time zones with the right capabilities at the right price. So it's definitely evolved over the years.
Nice. And what kind of opportunities exist for that? What are the benefits of, say, hiring somebody, halfway across the world, and what are the potential pitfalls for that?
From a benefits perspective, I think the most prominent is from an access to skills and capabilities perspective. The more specific your job requirements, the skill sets associated with it, the less likely it is that is available in your home or your domestic market. The bigger the talent pool you're able to access, the more likely it is that you're going to be able to find the right candidate. The second, though, is I think also around sort of time zone and continuity of work, being able to have folks collaborate cross time zone and kind of keep the ball in the air as people may be going offline, others are coming online, creates almost like a 24-hour work clock that we see at Deel every day is incredibly helpful from a productivity perspective. Yeah. From a pitfalls or from a potential downside perspective, it's a different format of work from what humans are used to from however many tens of thousands of years we've been working together, and maybe hundreds of years in an office environment. It requires new tools, more digital forms of collaboration. I think the push throughout the pandemic to get comfortable with remote work and the collaborative tools, the changes in kind of process and methodology to unlock that have made it a lot simpler, and have also, I think, helped prove out the value in the business case to leaders and to management that while it may be different and may require some adjustment at the individual level and at the team level, the value is there. The value is there from an output perspective. The value is also there from an employee retention and satisfaction perspective.
Definitely, yeah. And I see the workspace being a lot more flexible as of lately, especially with remote work. Whereas, maybe sometimes people might take, evening meetings to catch up with somebody halfway around the world, but, maybe during the middle of the day, they could take their kids to school. So you get that work-life balance there. And a lot of people like that too, right? But I also like your point about the continuity of work. If you could get your company working 24 hours without obviously, burning out anybody, you could be a lot more effective and move at the speed of business the way it moves today, which is extremely fast. For instance, at our company, we have a design team in Europe. So we'll work with them throughout the day and catch them at the end of their day. They'll work on stuff while we're sleeping. And when we wake up the next morning, we have brand new designs. We can work with our engineering team to start implementing those right away. So, it's just constantly moving 24/7 for us in our business. And I think a lot of other businesses are moving in that direction. And if you're not, you're going to get left behind pretty quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, one other consideration, though, that I think often gets overlooked in the early days of that sort of move to accessing international talent is the compliance implications of doing that. And that's an area where we at Deel spend a lot of our time investing in kind of building the underlying infrastructure to make it as simple and almost mindless as possible for employers. Making sure that as they invest in and onboard people cross-border, that they're doing so compliantly. Because what it means to provide parental leave in Sweden is very different than in the US. What it means to remit taxes in Kenya is very different than what it may be in Canada. And so being able to, allowing employers to not have to think about that day to day and not have to worry about that as a consideration or a reason to not hire the best talent, regardless of where they are, is an area we spend a lot of our time.
Yeah, that's a great point, because they'd rather spend their time growing their business, right? Let you guys take care of the details and the back office work. And that's why Deel is such a great platform for that.
Exactly.
Great. And what are your thoughts on AI and how it might either improve or cause issues for the job market? How can the job market coexist with the evolution of AI over the next few years?
Yeah, it's a great question and a massive topic. I think,
Yep.
like the talent market, or the talent market, like all other markets, elements of sort of our professional lives, AI will most definitely have a large impact. One that we can we can make some hypotheses around today and some educated have some educated perspectives, but I think everyone would agree we're still very much in the early days of harnessing the capabilities of AI. So they are very much, educated hypotheses still at this point. But I think, a few areas that are clear. The first, and I think the one that gets probably the most attention, even though it's probably not necessarily the most important, is around job displacement. There are some jobs that AI will, by and large, be able to displace or fully replace. Tend to be things that I think across the entire workforce. But especially things where there's a lot of repetitive tasks that can be easily automated. And when you add a little bit of intelligence through AI, that becomes even more so. But I think interesting, the more nuanced opportunities are beyond that, even though they may get a little bit less attention. I mean, the most exciting is around job creation, right? While some jobs are going to be lost or replaced, AI is an entirely new segment of the market, a new sort of horizontal that crosses all industries and all functions. That we're going to need very new AI specific skill sets around, whether it's from a development and engineering perspective, data analysis, cybersecurity, and sort of everything in between. How do we harness the power of AI to do all of the things we need to do in our day to day? I think across all roles, there's an accelerating skill shift, because almost no matter what your job is, to be better at it, to keep up with the evolving needs of it, harnessing AI is an increasingly kind of important requirement there. I think we're seeing the value of AI in supporting the move to remote or hybrid work. AI-powered tools and platforms to kind of accelerate a lot of that transition. I think those are some of the ones that come to mind.
Yeah, definitely. It's such a productivity hack, right? If you learn how to work with AI and learn how to do the prompts correctly, you could really get a lot of work done really quickly. So it definitely behooves anybody out there to just get some basic AI skill sets, which really is just prompt and engineering for the most part, at a minimum.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Great. So I guess moving on from AI, there's a lot of HR tools out there. I guess what are some simple tricks for HR managers and business owners to be able to find and utilize, attracting the right talent?
There's the list could probably be hundreds, and I think every HR practitioner and leader would probably be able to add their own flavor here. But I think a few that come to mind. One, I think, is optimizing job descriptions, right? The broader the global talent pool that you can tackle, or you can be addressing, the more opportunity you have to be very specific in exactly what you're looking for. I think second is and maybe similarly, the broader the talent pool, the more helpful it is to leverage kind of trusted networks, whether it's employee networks, existing professional networks, to be able to cut through some of the noise and narrow in on folks who come in from first, second, or even third degree connections that can come with some trusted references. Similarly, using social media effectively, again, as a tool to tap into that first, second, or third degree level of connectivity. Moving on to sort of compensation and a total rewards package. Of course, offering competitive compensation, but I think more specifically is finding the right mix between, I'd say, the traditional cash-based compensation, but also equity and benefits, particularly from a global perspective, being able to give a global workforce access to the upside of earning equity or options in a business, having a sense of sort of common access to benefits irrespective of the market you may be operating in. are some really powerful tools that we've seen recently. And then I think, lastly, around maybe like the process is, simplify the application process as much as possible, because as much as employers are getting access to global talent pools increasingly, that same workforce is getting access to a world of opportunities. So making it as simple as possible for applicants to participate in the job search, creates a big leg up. And maybe the last point here is there's a tendency, especially for hiring managers, to focus on, to treat the job search process as a sprint, right? You get a job posting up, you go, you try to meet as many people as you can, you find the best one, you hire them, and then you turn off the sort of recruiting or the hiring part of your job. I think increasingly we're finding that the most successful hires are the ones that have the highest close rates, the quickest time to hire, and the strongest retention rates are ones who have a strong like passive candidate engagement strategy, where they have a long-term view to the kinds of skills, the kinds of experiences, the kinds of capabilities that they know their organization is going to need, and they're kind of constantly engaging with and sort of tracking those candidates, so that when the right opportunity arises, there's already a warm talent pool of sort of known entities to be able to engage with.
Great. So you're saying keeping your notes in place, and really, if a hire might not be the right fit early on at a particular time in your company, keeping track of those people for later, so you have a nice fit for where they could be in the organization when the time is right.
Exactly.
Nice. And I guess, what other kind of benefits do you see are really trending right now that really will really attract the talent pool? Obviously, remote work is a big one. Any other benefits do you see that are rising in popularity that employers can consider offering people to attract talent?
Yeah, remote work, as you mentioned, is a big one. I think, maybe a subset of that are the kinds of benefits that speak to the remote workforce in a different way than what may have been traditionally offered from an in-office perspective, right? The kinds of health benefits, the kinds of subscription services that may be really helpful to someone who's working from home, that may not have historically been the case if you were in office. And so I think that's one, is like the ancillary benefits. I'm not talking about like kind of core health benefits, but ancillary secondary benefits specific to sort of the remote work or the multinational environment. A good example of that is actually at Deel, we provide like travel credits to our entire company is remote. So to the workforce, to be able to, at the workers, at the employee's discretion, be able to travel to kind of co-work with employees at certain times throughout the year. So just one example. I mentioned equity. I think traditionally that's been the mainstay of like the startup and the tech community, but I think we're seeing that increasingly shift outside of the startup community as a way to provide long-term incentives and alignment of long-term incentives between company and its workforce. I think those are some big ones that come to mind.
Yeah, especially for earlier stage companies, if you could hire people that are really motivated by the equity, they're more likely than not really believe in the company's mission and will likely stick around longer and not churn from the company.
Right.
Great. I guess, what are your thoughts on hybrid and remote work? Do you see it continuing to grow? Do you see any more opportunities or pitfalls there?
Yeah, I think the data has been speaking for itself. I think we saw a huge boost in the trend as a result of COVID. And of course, yes, some more traditional industries have started to move back into office, either full-time or more often in a hybrid capacity. And so I think that the ultimate answer is like company, industry, and maybe even geographically dependent a little bit. But overall, I think the gains made from a remote work and like an overall comfort with remote work perspective from the pandemic are very much here to stay. I think that the data has borne out the improvement in ability to attract talent, retain that talent, and the productivity of that talent over time. when you can eliminate the commute, when you can allow people to work from, from the most comfortable location, the most conducive location for them, which might be home. And I know that's like the traditional version of how people see work, but doesn't necessarily need to be. It could be a co-working space. It could be an office you rent around the corner from your house, or around the corner from your kid's school, or whatever works for you. But the concept of allowing people to work from the most conducive environment for them, in a way that doesn't adversely impact their ability to collaborate, I think is here to stay. And particularly as the digital tooling and the digital platforms continue to emerge and evolve and go through the adoption curve, to make the collaboration as smooth as possible from a remote perspective. Where I think we still have a big gap to work on as an industry, is in a hybrid world where you have some people in office, some people working remotely, trying to facilitate a meeting that has a combination of both a team, a process, a collaboration that has both. Right? Hybrid it typically refers to an individual being somewhat in office and somewhat remote, but the same is true for a team or for a meeting, where some people are going to be remote and some people are going to be in office, and that complexity I don't think we've yet solved. So we're gonna have to keep working on that.
Definitely, yeah. Accountability is a big part of it, but I feel like you can trust most people to get the work done. But there's always a risk that you never know, like, what they're doing throughout the day. I also feel like there might be some missing component. I'm also a big fan of remote work too, by the way, but there's also a component of maybe missing camaraderie as well. So being in the office, having that FaceTime with people sometimes is also very beneficial for helping the team feel like they really they are actually a part of a team. What workarounds do you have for that? I guess what do you suggest for companies that do have a remote workforce that might be missing that camaraderie standpoint?
Yeah, it's a big topic, and I think it starts at onboarding. With a structured onboarding process, clear steps to ensure that an individual is able to sort of ramp up and into an organization from an industry and a content and perspective, from a cultural perspective, to sort of understand the culture that they're ramping into. I think it comes down to some really basic tactics, like assigning a buddy or a mentor to help to remove the potential sense of anonymity that comes with a more sort of digital onboarding. Preset regular check-ins to make sure that you're forcing the engagement and the conversation in the early days before it becomes organic and a little bit more natural. Proactively facilitate the sort of key or pivotal introductions through the organization, again, to not allow for the long delays before it becomes natural and organic. I think second is it also comes down to sort of managers and how they facilitate conversation, how they run meetings, how they push for collaboration asynchronously, and ensuring that they're creating an opportunity for those new hires to engage without feeling intimidated or overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And I think lastly is and you mentioned accountability earlier, but just being really, really clear with measurable success metrics. And providing regular feedback along the way when maybe expectations aren't being met or are being exceeded, but keeping a really open and candid and regular line of feedback against those metrics, to remove a sense of like uncertainty or lack of clarity on behalf of that new joiner.
Yeah, those are all great points, actually. Yeah, I think onboarding is key for anybody, especially in a remote work environment. If they feel like they don't fit in, or they don't know what they're supposed to be doing and have no direction, it's almost destined for failure at that point. So I guess what are your thoughts on the general market trends for hiring? It's extremely competitive now in the tech industry. What job opportunities do you see opening up over the next few years, and where do you see the general job market going?
Great question. I'm not sure that I'm necessarily the oracle for overall the overall job market. But I think, in this moment, you're right. It's a little bit of a tight market, potentially driven by sort of the funding environment, and maybe interest rate driven over the last year or two. Hopefully, we see that start to open up now, given like the slightly easing economic landscape and access to capital. I think trend or roles and industries that cater to like increasing digitization are ones that we're continuing to see pop up more and more prevalently around data privacy and compliance, AI and machine learning, cybersecurity, cloud computing, e-com, and the digital marketing side of go-to-market. And of course, we've talked a lot about remote work and the remote work solutions required to unlock that. Specifically within sort of the tech segment, I think anything that is supporting the move to digitization is a huge area of growth.
Great. Any other global hiring strategies that employers should keep in mind as they continue to grow? You had a couple great ideas earlier. Anything else they should keep an eye out for?
Do more of it. The global talent pool is your most potent weapon. Being able to access a diverse talent pool, the cost effectiveness that comes with that, the 24/7 productivity, it enabling expansion, more natural expansion into new markets. I think the upsides are endless, and increasingly, thanks to and many of our peers out there, the infrastructure needed to do it is becoming simpler, easier, and more accessible.
Yeah, don't learn the hard way. Use the right tools for it.
Exactly.
Covered there. So I guess any other bottlenecks that teams should be aware of when they're trying to scale, especially when they're trying to compete globally?
Yeah, I mean, make sure you've got the right infrastructure, right? Outdated systems that were built to serve a domestic workforce, a domestic audience, can really get in the way and will require you or result in you adding bodies and manual processes to work around could be a fully digital and automated process. We talked about sort of onboarding and strong communication, finding the right talent, of course, to support that scaling. But I think for me, the biggest learning has been that like the need for and the importance of global specific infrastructure and tooling, whether we're talking about from a hiring perspective, the kinds of marketplaces and job boards that give you access to global talent, the tools that focus on the nuances of onboarding and managing and paying multinational workforces, the compliance systems that allow you to continue to manage and pay them and compliantly regardless of the market they're in, and the sort of engagement tools to make sure that they are communicated with, they can effectively collaborate with their teammates, is I would say is like the last really critical element.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and if these companies now can tap into that 24-hour work cycle, like you said, I mean, it's a huge advantage, right? It's almost, it's pretty much 3x the normal working hours you would get if you're hyper local. So
yeah,
you just imagine the possibilities there. Not to mention that, tapping into international talent, especially if you're trying to expand, they know the market best because they work there, right? So I guess what's next for Deel? And we'd love if you could share more about where they could learn about Deel and why they should pick your platform up today.
Yeah. What's next for Deel? We are continuing on the long journey to solve for the needs of hiring, managing, and paying a global workforce. While we're really proud of the progress we've made over the last 5 years and think we've got a really robust tool set and platform to help business owners do that, we also recognize that we're just scratching the surface. This is a really long horizontal journey across more countries, solving for more services and more products, more edge case pain points. And so from a product development perspective, the plan is to accelerate and just do more and more and make sure we're covering truly every market we can with full breadth of sort of that employee cycle with a very clear focus on the multinational pain points in the multinational workforce. And I think come learn more about us, either through NachoNacho, Deel.com. We come experience from a digital perspective a little bit more about what it is that we do, and then number one tip is get on the phone, hop on a virtual meeting. Our team is built from the ground up to help kind of problem solve with you in a pretty bespoke way to understand the nuances of your needs, make sure you've got access to the right tool set, whether it's on the Deel platform or through our ecosystem of partners.
Great. Well, Ryan, it's been great having you today. If you're looking to grow your team internationally, Deel is one of the best in the business for HR tech. Definitely recommend you guys check it out. Again, that's Deel.com. That's DEEL.com. It's the right deal. We also have the right deal for it in our marketplace, NachoNacho. You can pick it up today for 15% cash back. Once again, Ryan, we totally appreciate you coming on today, and we look forward to growing our businesses together.
Thanks for having me, Andy. Take care. Bye.
Thank you. Take care.